So many questions.
One answer.
Yeah. I have so many big questions, little questions. Just how did we get here? Where do you go when you're not talking to us? Do we get to go to other places?
There's never a time that we're not talking to you.
Do we get to go be other beings on different planets, or just humans on Earth, or?
This is the leading edge. This is the leading edge of everything that you're about and everything that we are about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I do have tons and tons of questions, but what I really, really want to know, really, as you like to say, is so far in my 50 years here, at least this trip to Earth, I've yet to find, the one.
There's your problem right there.
Well, I mean, just
so rare,
a long-lasting relationship.
Rare, the one.
Yeah. Okay, how about A1?
Not one of the ones, but the one, that very rare, impossible to find, hardest thing I've ever done, one.
How about A1?
Oh, well.
Okay, well, anyway.
Now you say that. The words are only indicative of the vibration, but you got to admit, it feels big and it feels important. And so you have more challenge in it than you do positive expectation and more worry about it. In other words, what if I find the one that I think is the one and it isn't the one, and now I'm stuck with the one that isn't the one? Now what do I do with this one that isn't the one, who thinks that they're the one, wants to be the one, signed on to be the one, be mad as hell if it doesn't turn out to be the one?
Or what if I walked past her and didn't notice her or something? Yeah.
Yeah, what about that?
The real question the real question is
the real question is, do you believe that there is a vibrational reality that contains this person?
Yes.
And do you believe that your inner being knows what your path of least resistance is to the unfolding of that?
My inner being does, yes.
And do you believe that your inner being is deliberately keeping it from you?
I would have to say no to that.
Or do you believe that your inner being is giving you clue after clue after clue after clue that's just bouncing off of you because you're so worried that your inner being doesn't know? You're not worried that your inner being doesn't know. You're worried that you won't hear it right.
Right.
So what we're talking about here is you don't have confidence that you're able to hear clearly about this important thing.
Right.
So do you believe that you're able to hear clearly about other important things?
Yes.
Like Esther believes that she can hear clearly about rats chewing on wires. Now.
Yeah.
So you do believe that you can hear clearly about some things.
Yes.
So start there. In order to bolster your expectation about your ability to be in the receiving mode, can you activate some of that now through conversation? In other words, in what ways do you know that you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on? How do you know? Do you receive impulses that turn out to be really good impulses?
Yeah, I guess sometimes I just have had a challenge in deciphering, which is a.
Well, that's always the way. Wouldn't all of you say that? I believe that my inner being exists, and I believe that there are messages. And so this is the reason that our way of explaining it to you is evolving over time, because these are the things that we wanted you to come back into awareness of. Some things that you had sort of forgotten or replaced with other things that were not accurate. So this is the way we began. You create your own reality, and people liked it and didn't like it. You sort of freaked out when you realized that. And then we began explaining about law of attraction, and that you get what you think about whether you want it or not. That by thinking thoughts, you create vibrational atmosphere that makes you conducive to the receiving of things like that. In fact, today, we want to say something to you that you have probably not heard us say before, because we have not said it in this context. When we talk about law of attraction, we're really talking about the power of influence. We're talking about if someone is really sure about something, so they have no split energy about it, they have more energy flowing through them, and it is more likely for you to pick up that from them because of the power with which they are broadcasting, because they're not splitting their energy. Does that make sense to you? And so as you are wanting to receive the power of influence from your inner being, then you can't be in vibrational contradiction to your inner being. And so we began talking to you about law of attraction. You get what you think about. And then we began saying to you that when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. And this is all part of the deciphering process of you creating your own reality. Now we would like to say in a very clear way, all of your creative work happened and happens in step one experiences. It's in that exploring a variety that you create your own reality. I know I don't want this, I want this. So step one is where the majority of the creation happens with you. Think about that. It's done. You've already done it. Step two is, here's this vibrational reality where your inner being is. Trust us, it's real. It says vibrational reality where your inner being is. So when you ask, it is given vibrationally. But step three is you got to get in the receiving mode. Well, that's what we are really talking about these days with as much emphasis as we can find. You've already done the creating. Now your emphasis is upon preparing yourself vibrationally so that you are receptive to the ideas. So we've offered endless processes about how to do that. Try to think better feeling thoughts and make lists of positive aspects and do rampages of appreciation and look for reasons to feel good and find the best feeling thought that you can find in any moment and move up the emotional scale. And if you feel despair, then reach for revenge. And if you feel revenge, then reach for anger. And if you feel anger, then reach for frustration. If you feel frustration, then reach for hope. In other words, there have been so many things that we've talked about over time to help you prepare yourself deliberately. And these days, what we're saying to you is quiet your mind. It's the best preparation that you can offer, because when you quiet your mind, you stop thought. And when you stop thought, you stop resistance. And when you've stopped resistance, you're in the receiving mode. So if you can just manage to sit for 15 or 20 minutes every morning and focus upon something that is not interesting at all, like the flickering of a flame or the dripping of a faucet, or Esther listens to the air conditioner. That's why it matters so much to her. She just loves the sound of the air conditioner, because it's boring, because she doesn't feel comparative about it. Oh, that's the best air conditioner I've ever heard. She doesn't think any of those thoughts. So she's able to quiet her mind easily. Today, in her room, when she sat to meditate, can you hear this sound? Well, it sounds sort of like that, but it was more like the sound of the building. She wasn't sure if it was water running through pipes. She didn't know what it was. She just tried to isolate it. That's a good word. Isolate a particular frequency in whatever she thought she was hearing. And since she had no idea what it was nice to focus on. And then the phone rang in the room next door, but she was isolated around that, so she barely noticed it. And the television was on in the room next to her, but she thought, this is really good because I'm focusing around the sound of that television, and I'm focused upon the sound of the building. And then she heard a little bit of traffic just for a moment, but she focused around. She isolated the sound that she wanted to focus upon, and she thought, ooh, this is way good, because in most of the places where Esther lives, there's no sound except the sound that she introduces in. But she thought, this is really good, because this is more like a real life experience where I have to focus myself deliberately. So she focused upon that sound. And when you manage to isolate a sound and focus on it for just a little while, your mind becomes a blank slate. All thought ceases. When there's no thought, there's no resistant thought. And when there's no resistant thought, she's now in that neutral place where, whoa, and here's what happens. Her inner being is the only thought that's thinking. And since that's the only thought that's thinking, her vibration just rose to the vibrational level of that thought. Instant bliss once she got there, you see. So that's that receiving mode. So we told you about law of attraction. We told you you're the creator of your own reality. We encouraged you to try to think the best feeling thought that you could think. And now we're talking to you about, here's this vibrational reality that is ready for you to receive. And you are most likely the only component in this equation who isn't cooperating, because you think there's only one and hard to find. But your inner being knows otherwise. But now you've quieted your mind, so you're not thinking that right now. That thought is not part of the hindering equation. You're not thinking that thought. You're focused on nothing. So you're not competing with what your inner being knows about that. And so all your resistance on your path right now is not there. And in that situation, you are going to not only feel good, but likely, especially if you've done it for a few mornings, you're going to get an impulse, a good feeling impulse to do something, to go somewhere, to be somewhere. And if you have the willingness to follow that, what might feel to you like an illogical impulse because it came from your inner being and it wasn't on your things to do today list, but you follow it anyway, and then you have the wonderful experience of the payoff being obvious to you. Esther was so glad those rats had chewed that wire. It was so satisfying to her to receive an impulse. She thought she was looking for a leaf or a piece of a banana tree or a piece of plastic that had broken off in there. In other words, she didn't know she was leading that man right to the solution that he had not been able to find. And so when the payoff came, she was so happy, and he looked at her like, hey lady, it's just a wire. And Esther didn't try to explain, oh, there's so much more to this story. There's so much more going on here. So feel how your understanding of your relationship with this vibrational reality is evolving. Feel how you are now focused with us right here on you preparing your petri dish to be as receptive as you can be for the step 3 part of the equation, because you already did the work in step 1, and Source already did the work in step 2. Source and Law of Attraction have already rounded up all the cooperative components, and what you want is all queued up, ready for you to receive. But if you say, what if I miss this person? You've been saying this in very poetic ways for years. What if I go to the dock and my ship has already come and I've missed it? And we say, there's another one and 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 another one. You cannot possibly be in the resistant mode forever, because you will croak. We just don't think you should have to croak to get into the receiving mode. We think you are capable of quieting your mind and letting yourself receive impulses that will lead you along the way. And isn't it fun once something that you want has happened? Don't you like telling the story of how it happened? Oh, I was over there. I don't even know what I was doing there. I just had an urge to be there. And I just looked up and there was somebody over there. And I thought, wow. Who's that over there? And they were looking at me thinking, wow, who's that? Well, that's a really great story, isn't it? In other words, but you all have these stories. Esther's got her most recent story about the rats. You have all of these rendezvous experiences that, and here's the point that we're really wanting to make with you. So here we're offering the laws of the universe as they are, and ways for you to accomplish your readiness to benefit by your knowledge of these laws, so that you can consistently be in a satisfying right place at the right time. Timing and law of attraction, this is what creation is. Timing, and timing is about impulse. Timing is about responding to the impulse in a timely way. And if you haven't practiced responding to impulses in timely ways, then you're probably missing out on a whole lot of things. But you must be doing something right, because hardly any of you are getting run over by trucks. You are receiving your impulses and you are doing very well, but you could tune it up. You could do it in a more effective way, and you could begin to enjoy the satisfaction of trusting that you know when you're tuned in and when you're not. So you come to a gathering like this and we tell you like it is. We tell you about the laws of the universe, and we explain to you everything that you or anyone would ever need to know about deliberate living of life, about living happily ever after, about fulfilling your reason for being here, which is satisfying creating. And we know that when you are caught up in our influential spell, that this makes sense to you. We can feel you coming right along. Esther marvels at how ready you are to hear what we're ready to tell you when we tell you. You are such a responsive group, so ready to know and knowing. And then, until you have quieted your mind,